Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Alan Barry Labucan here with the rocksandstocksnews.com website. And I've got our one of our sponsors for the show today. It's TRU Precious Metals. Just a couple of days ago, they had some very good news out, and we've got their chief geologist guy to talk about that. Barry, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Alan. It's always a pleasure to be here talking to you.
Yeah, well, we've had lots to talk about. When we first started the sponsorship program, we weren't sure if we'd have a lot to talk about before January, but you've had a few very good news releases. One was the visible gold in the drill core down in the southern part of the claims. And now you've had some very good results in the more up to the central part, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Up on the kind of the central to northwest end. It's such a big property. When you say central or northwest, it's hard to know exactly where you're talking about. But
well,
you're looking
45
at 45
kilometers of the Valentine Lake structure. That's correct, right?
It is. It is.
So that's a very large piece of land. Barry, the first thing I wanted to talk about was you made an impressive quote in the news release. For my audience here, I'm going to read it off. You stated, and I quote, "As soon as we plotted the data and looked at it in context of the regional magnetic geophysical signatures, I couldn't help but think back to the early days at the Valentine Lake project. The scale and scope of this newly identified soil anomalous trend on Golden Rose reminded me of the regional scale soil anomalous trend I saw when I first started working on the Valentine Lake project in 1988 in the early discovery days. As we were trenching at Valentine Lake and uncovering gold mineralized veins, we were following the soil anomalies along the Valentine Lake regional structural break. It's like looking at the Valentine Lake soil data from 33 years ago," end quote. Lot to unpack there, Barry. Starting with the Valentine Lake deposit owned by Marathon is 3 million ounces. And in the measured, I believe, and then another million or more in the inferred. It's a very large gold endowment.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
You were there from before they even drilled into it.
No, I went there in '88, and it was found, I think, a year or two before that. But we were still trenching the soil anomalies, and we were drilling it. BP. I was with BP, British Petroleum's mining division, and when I went there in '88, I was still in my last year as a student, and then I stayed with BP for '89, '90, and until they pulled out of the mining business in '91, and I went back, because I went back to Valentine Lake again. Subsequent to my first trip there as a student, and when we were drilling it, of course. So BP had already kind of outlined a lot of the quartz tourmaline veining with like the visible gold and the cubic pyrite, and so I was involved in some of that. Not I wasn't one of the main players, but I was definitely there as a geologist and as a student geologist initially. So I had some familiarity with the project from the earliest days.
And being a local geologist, you've followed it all along, I would imagine.
Yeah, of course. That's a long time ago, and I'm dating myself, of course. But well,
you were just
it is what it is. Yeah, that's right. I was a student then, but no, I was quite impressed when I saw our data, because our work, what we've been doing in 2021, and it's all fairly compressed into a fairly short time period. As you said, we're coming out with news fairly regularly here, and some good news as well. But we only started working on Golden Rose in June. We only really became a mining issuer in May and started working in June. So it's a very short time period we've packed a lot of a lot of work in there. We've been very aggressively exploring it. And when we identified this structure up on the kind of up on the northwest end of the property,
And
it
that's
looked very
near Jacob's Pond, I believe. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it starts down all the way down in the southwest end of our property. Actually, what happens, what we think is going on here is the Cape Ray shear zone, which goes up through all the way up through Matador's property from the southwest coast of the island. It goes all the way up through Matador's property, where they've also defined some pretty significant gold deposits, and they're still evaluating kind of other prospects. And then when you get to an area on our property called Princess Lake, it seems to diverge. The Cape Ray structure comes up through there. The Windsor Point group is a package of sedimentary rocks that basically outlines or kind of defines the trace of the Cape Ray shear zone into the southwest. When we see the Windsor Point group on our property, we start picking it up way down at the southwest end near Princess Lake, and then it sort of swings over to the northwest, and
like this sort of.
Yeah, swings over to the northwest and wraps around these ophiolites, these sort of mafic, ultramafic rocks, and intrusions, and then wraps around, comes back, and kind of swings back towards the main Valentine Lake shear zone, which is on the east side of our property. So basically, it kind of diverges, splays off, and then swings back and creates this large oval shape with, so you've got basically two major shear structures, one on each side of your property. And as they move, and as they're sort of being kind of prospective gold, I guess, shear zones, for lack of without getting too complicated, so basically we've added another 20 kilometers of gold prospectivity, on that side of our property that was never known before.
And that, where the Cape Ray bends around and then meets back up with the Valentine Lake shear zone, that's a good place to be looking, because the rock is well prepared for the fluids to make their way close to surface.
Well, these major shear zones like the Cape Ray and the Valentine Lake, most people call them the Cape Ray to Valentine Lake shear zone. It's actually a corridor. It's actually a structural corridor, not just one line. And so that's what's happening on our ground. We feel we've got actually this thing splitting into two parts of the corridor, and both of which now we've identified as having good prospectivity for gold. So the Jacob's Pond, gold showing or prospect is in bedrock. That's way up at the end of where this Cape Ray structure, or what we're interpreting as the Cape Ray structure, continues up to that end. And then as we follow that structure down, and kind of as it wraps around these rocks, these more brittle rocks. So basically, yeah. So what's happening is, well, what we interpret is happening is that the main shear structures are what's known as ductile. So the rocks will slip and move. And then as they wrap around other kind of intrusions and more brittle rocks, they create a fracture of second and third order fractures within those rocks as they wrap around, because they're kind of rotating them and bending them. And that's always a good place, a good trap area for gold, to find gold occurrences. So what we're seeing is, when we plot up the soil data that we did this summer, we collected about.
And by the way, folks, that map showing the soil data points is in the news release that they released a couple days ago. So it's worth going to look at that, because you can see where they're talking about the bands and this extensive sampling, why this is also important.
Yeah. So yeah, so we collected roughly 2,600 soil samples this summer in the abbreviated period of time that we had, and a large I guess proportion of those were on this newly identified shear structure on the northwest side of our property. And when we got the data and plotted them up, lo and behold, we've got, quite widespread, highly anomalous gold values for many, many kilometers along it. And then as we follow that down, further down, as it kind of forms the arcuate shape, it starts to turn around these more, what we think are brittle kind of intrusions, mafic and granitic and granodiorite intrusions. Then, that's where we're drilling. That same structure comes down to the King George IV Lake area, and that's where we're drilling now on various targets that we've developed down there. So all told, we've now got kind of gold, I guess, prospectivity identified over maybe 15 of the 20 kilometers, sort of thing, so far.
Wow. And you can really see that in your map. The first map, it shows the Cape Ray structure that you're talking about and the Valentine Lake structure. I think the Valentine Lake one is the one that you did the most, the longest strike of sampling, but then there's a cluster right in there's a whole bunch right in the central part of your claim map. And then you've got a series over on the west side that hit a bunch of anomalous gold as well. Is that correct?
Correct. So the trend that you see on the east side, that's following the original, say, let's call it the Valentine Lake structural trend, the Valentine Lake shear zone itself. The one over on the other side, it's like I kind of, that forms a separate structural trend with gold on it, and that's where we've got two. Like we're saying now, we've got two structures, one on either side of our property, and we've basically increased the real estate where we can look for gold, and it's sort of forming a ring, if you will, or part of a, starting to form a part of a ring. I call
and
it
the top central, sort of slightly to the east, is there's a big cluster of sampling with hits of gold. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the Jacobs Pond area, there's a very good clustering in the Jacobs Pond area where we've already got gold and bedrock, and we're also finding gold. We're finding high grade gold, copper, and silver actually in multiple samples along that trend and associated with the soil anomaly, and which is a long trend from the bedrock gold occurrence as well. So we really like that area. That's going to be one of the prime areas to focus in 2022. And what we're developing here is basically a pipeline of targets that that will bring us into 2022 for sure. So we've got lots lining up here.
And the second map that you have, I believe that's mag data that people can see. The purple area is where that brittle rock you were talking about. And then there's mag anomalies that are at the contact, which is where you've done a lot of the sampling. Did I get that right?
Correct. Yeah, right at the contact. So the purple areas where you see a lot of internal kind of broken up areas where you see the mag is sort of high and low. That area to us now stands out as a very obvious target to extend the soil anomalies over, because that would be what we think would be like the brittle host rocks for something for some more gold, put it that way. So at the contact, what we're seeing is just on the lower, the south side of the contact, along where this major structure goes along, we're seeing our better responses on the south side of the contact versus the north side, and that's what we were basically hoping to see, because that's where you would expect to get the gold on where one rock is riding up over the other one. You expect to get it in the hanging wall, and not in the footwall.
Barry, I just got it on mute there for a second. So can you tell us a little bit about the grain counts and the and the morphology? Like, are they pristine? Are they rounded? What kind of counts were you getting of the gold grains?
Well, the soil anomalies that we announced on that large arcuate structure, that we didn't do gold grain counts in those, but further to the southwest, where we're drilling now on King George IV, as you follow that structure down, we did a lot of till sampling in that area, and those samples we did do gold grain counts on, and so we got quite a variability in the gold grain counts, up to, I think, 64 gold grains was our better one. There's a 50. There's quite a number of anomalous values, strongly anomalous, I would say. And some of the samples were definitely had a high proportion of pristine grains. I don't remember the percentage, but there was a mixture of pristine, kind of modified and rounded, as you would sort of typically expect. There's more till sampling needs to be done to sort of narrow in that particular target, but that's another kind of that's a target area as well.
The reason I ask that, Barry, is that, I spent a lot of my career in diamond exploration, and because diamonds are so rare, you have to rely on diamond indicator minerals. And, one of the signs that you're close to where those indicator minerals come from is, are they rounded? Are they angular? And the grain counts tell you that you're close to the source. So I think it's fair to say, based on the counts and the description of those grains, that it looks like you're probably sitting right on top of the source.
Yeah, well, typically we do gold grain counts in the glacial till, which would be the layers that are under the more classic B horizon soils, we call them. Now, in central Newfoundland, people have been doing both soil sampling and till sampling. So the soil samples you don't typically do gold grain counts on, and I've worked on a lot of projects over the years with typical just standard B horizon soil samples, and we've trenched right on the soil anomalies and found the source of the anomalous soils. We found it in bedrock, on several occasions. Sometimes it's not always right on source. Sometimes it can be displaced and it can present some challenges. But it's a good sign. If you're finding in soil, I guess gold in soils, B horizon soils, to me, it's a good sign that you're ready to go in with an excavator, start trenching across these things, and you would hope
try to get down
find
to
something in bedrock. Yeah.
Right.
So there's no guarantees.
But you're also finding it in the till, right? So that's a
Correct.
better indicator.
Yeah, in the till, and you can kind of work your way up ice, they call it. If you've got a source that you're not exactly sure where it is, you could do wide space tills and then kind of narrow it down and kind of look for the up ice dispersion, or the down ice dispersion, where the glacier sort of moved the grains. If you're finding a lot of pristine grains, it gives you a lot more encouragement, of course, that you're very close to the original source. As the gold moves further away from source, it gets more rounded as it sort of travels and rolls in the water, et cetera.
Okay, so now there's a third image, and you showed some rock there. Can you explain to the audience a little bit about what you're seeing in that rock and why you highlighted it in a picture?
Yeah, so that material is a couple of kilometers, I believe it is, from the original Jacob's Pond bedrock gold showing, which is on a little kind of peninsula out in the pond, in Jacob's Pond itself. and you know, the mineralization is basically quartz carbonate veining with bornite, which is a copper mineral, and that's why we got like 11% copper in that sample. I can't remember exactly. I believe it was 14.3 grams of gold and quite a lot of silver, over 300 grams per ton silver, and a little bit of antimony as well, which is interesting to see the antimony, because it's tells you that it's, well, it kind of tells to me that it's kind of related to a gold system. You often get antimony as a pathfinder in gold, so it's a very high grade sample. It's much higher grade than the original bedrock gold occurrence, and it gives you encouragement that there's higher grade within that. Assuming it's from the system, that kind of from the Jacobs Pond system, it does look very similar to it, but it's much higher grade. So kind of gives us encouragement that the soil anomaly that we're seeing there around the Jacobs Pond bedrock occurrence could be part of a bigger system, and that's what we're hoping for there.
Okay, well, you've got some very strong indicators that that's what has occurred. So let's talk now about where to from here.
Well, we're in the midst of basically a 5,000 meter drill program, which we announced in October. We drilled a bunch of holes on the Wood Lake Gold Zone, as we spoke about I think the last time we spoke to you. Then we moved the drill over to the King George IV area on this sort of this Cape Ray structure, and so now we'll finish. We'll keep drilling till basically the holiday break. In the meantime, we're evaluating doing an IP survey on that arcuate structure where we have all these soil anomalies, to actually upgrade it and identify kind of further cement, let's say, our targets along that area. We believe some of these structures actually run up through this whole string of linear ponds and lakes that we see up there, where the soil anomaly is sort of following. Some of them go, so if they run up through the lakes, in the wintertime would be a good time to do your surveys across the ice, and you can basically take your shots and see what's underneath these ponds and lakes.
The mag is giving you a pretty good indication of the big anomalies there where you have the contact, but the IP will give you more data on secondary structures. Am I getting that right, Barry?
Well, it'll give you data on the secondary structures plus the primary structure. It's a little too early for us to know what might be, like, where this gold is coming from at this point. But yeah, the IP will pick up anything that's either chargeable or resistive that's in the ground. So for instance, let's say at the Jacobs Pond area, if we did IP there, quartz is typically more resistive, and so it'll give you like a resistivity high. But if you've got sulfides like bornite or other sulfide minerals, that'll give you a little bit of a chargeability high. So if you see chargeability highs and resistivity highs, it kind of would make you think that maybe would be kind of, I guess consistent with what we're seeing in the rocks, and would kind of identify the target for us. Or no guarantees we would find something there, but it would add up. It would kind of give us another layer of data to say, yeah, that's definitely a solid target there.
To more better target. But what are you mainly drilling on now? Is the mag and soil combination? Or
No
combination?
No, like right now at King George IV Lake, we did an IP survey down at King George IV Lake this fall. While we were drilling at Wood Lake, we were doing the IP over there. We identified large anomaly over there. There's a big horseshoe-shaped anomaly, better than a kilometer, more than a kilometer long. And then there's another one that's about 400 by 500 meters. that's a weaker anomaly, but the real strong one is kind of well defined. Kind of almost the shape of like a fold or a horseshoe, and that's where we're drilling right now on those targets out there.
And that's again about rock preparation, right? That's where you've got the anomaly that suggests that the rocks were cooperating and allowing the fluids to make their way up.
Well, yeah, the mag data in that area as well. That's called the King George IV ophiolite, and that's these are mafic, kind of brittle mafic rocks as well. And this is situated on a big bend in this major structure. And when we look at the mag data, we could see a lot of mag linears going through it that change direction and kind of do dog legs and stuff like that. And that's when we saw that with respect to where we're getting the gold grains in till and on the beach, and a lot of them are pristine. We said, that looks like a good potential for potential for, like, I guess, traps for gold. So that's why we decided, let's do some IP over this, and we did get a good anomaly. So it's just doing, I guess, good science. And now we're in drill testing with, as you said, the truth detector. I think you said last time.
Truth machine.
Yeah, the truth machine, and
Yeah.
and that'll determine what we got here at the end of the day.
Excellent. Well, it sure sounds like you've got a lot of things pointing in the right direction. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're very optimistic. We're very hopeful. Obviously we're also realistic. We know every hole is not going to be kind of plunk into a mother lode, but if you do, if you do all the right things and you try and do things properly and systematically, then you hope to get lucky and you hope to find something substantial, and so we'll see.
If it's fair to say that you might not hit the mother lode, but you can also fairly say that you might get lucky and bang into something really exciting.
Well, that's what we're here to try to do, for sure. So,
Barry, after having this conversation, we really had a good chat early before the company even became a sponsor. You and I and Joel sat down and had a good conversation. And, the first target that stood out to me was that double hinged area where you drilled recently and you found some visible gold. But it wasn't lost on me that you said that, something to the effect that this property is so big and it's rich with targets. And you guys have really been rolling up your sleeves to establish that. And I guess this King George IV area is there's a reason why you've been rolling up your sleeves there. Several reasons.
Well, we know we're in the right geography. We know we're on the right structures. There's gold mineral, there's gold deposits to the northeast and to the southwest of us, and some big ones, and on the same structure. So we know we're in basically the right real estate. Now we've got to distinguish ourselves from the other 50 or something, whatever juniors that have flooded into the Newfoundland gold rush. And so, we're not going to sit on our laurels and just being on the right structure. We want to actually now prove it up, and so we're moving as quickly as we can.
My gosh, Barry, in a very short period of time, you guys have done tremendous work. You've done all of the surface sampling, you've done IP, you've got the truth machine working. What good on you guys. You're really rolling up your sleeves and getting busy.
Yeah, I think I said to you before, this is not just a promotion. This is, we're actually trying to do good systematic work here and find something real, right? It's not a kind of a flash in the pan. So that's what we're trying to do. We've been doing this a long time. I have, and Pierce has, and much of our team has. So it's not like before I got involved with TRU, I was kind of semi-retired, and I'm not here just to sort of twiddle my thumbs. I want to find something here. So keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing great work, and I could recognize that very early in our first conversation, which was why I was happy to ask you guys to be sponsors of my website. before you even put the truth machine in. Most of the time, Barry, to tell you the truth, I don't even start following a company until they start kidding with the truth machine. But with my experience, I've had tremendous mentors in geology, geophysics, geochemistry, and I'm starting to take a few more swings for the fences and using some of that knowledge that I've been fortunate to gain to look at companies now prior to drilling. And I'm sure glad we had that conversation. And I was able to get the sense that you guys are going to do good work, and that you're in the right address. There's big elephants around you, which is and associated with the same. You're associated with the same structure, and now you're doing the work in the same way. You did it before at Valentine Lake, and now you're doing it here on the Golden Rose. So thank you very much for doing the good work.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Let's keep it up. Keep following it through into 2022.
You got it. Well, early in 2022, we might be starting to see some assay results from that double hinge area where it stuck out like a sore thumb to me as a target.
Exactly. Well, when we're done at King George IV Lake, when we're done with our drilling out there, our plan is to move the drill back. In the meantime, right now we're plotting up everything in sections and doing some meticulous, I guess, digital work with all the data that we do have, even though we don't have the assays to sort of populate the thing. So once we but we are getting some valuable information from what we're seeing in terms of the rock types and all that, so we can plot that up and look for trends in the data and in terms of dips and plunges. And so of the right of the zone, or basically the rocks that would normally host the gold, put it that way, we can see what we're hitting, even though we don't know.
So you can kind of while you're waiting for the initial drill results with the visible gold, you've been able to jump over to King George. Mm-hmm. And then when you finish drilling there, you should have assays back to jump back to that visible gold area with the double hinge. And then I assume by the time you finish drilling some more holes there, you'll be ready to go back to the King George area.
Well, that all remains to be seen. We'll see what happens. Who knows? I mean, if we get lucky at King George, who knows if we want to move the drill out, right? But we'll, back to the other area, we might have to. Well, anyway, that's all pie in the sky stuff. But yeah, no, that's sort of generally what we're looking at. We, even before we get assays back from Wood Lake, we can plot up the rock, basically if we've intersected the right rock types and which way it's dipping, which way it's plunging, and kind of help us plan for when we do go back. Maybe let's target this part of the zone versus this part, and with some follow-up holes, so hopefully we're getting getting enough information, even though obviously we'd rather have all the assays before we go back. But if we're ready to go back and we don't have them, we still have drill targets ready to go.
That's good to know. Excellent. Well, this is a very exciting story in the making. Newfoundland has caught the imagination of the investing world that looks at exploration. I think it's fair to say it might be one of the hottest regions in the world right now.
I think it ranks way up there for sure. I'm not sure what would be in second place, but there's no doubt this is probably, I would say in the 33 years that I've been involved, at least on the island portion of the province, it's probably the busiest boom that I've seen. Labrador was busy when the Voisey's Bay discovery was made back in the mid 90s, but this is it's pretty hot here right now.
Perfect. Okay, Barry, on that note, you've been very kind with your time. And, one of the indicators that I always look for when I'm talking to geologists is, are they able to explain this in a way that investors can understand? And I got to commend you, Barry, because you're very good at that. And thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you very much. Anytime,
I'm
anytime.
gonna close it off now. You can hang around and we can have a chat after the video's done.
Sure.
Okay. So there you go, folks. I think Barry made it very clear, and also in their news releases and the recent drilling success that they've had, that this company is onto something. And yet they still only have a $12 million valuation, and they only have 66 million shares out. These are the hallmarks of what I look for in a junior when I am trying to find one that can, move in the right direction. And, having that nice tight share structure, if they have success with the assays, you can really see some good movement in the upside. And if you look at their stock chart, it's indicating that, there's more optimism than there was even just a couple months ago. There was more optimism about back in May, June, and then it softened up and it made a couple important bottoms, and now it's starting to trend up, and it's trending up when they're doing good work. And I think that this is one you should do your homework on. As always, I say my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors and do your homework before making any investment decisions. I've done my homework. I'm very impressed with what I see from the company so far. And that leads me to have lots of optimism for the upcoming drilling results and the new drilling. So stay tuned, folks. I think we've got a very exciting company in the junior in the right end of the growth curve. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.